Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and it's an honor to have you. And it's an honor to be here with Commissioner Flores, and we have Mayor Edinburgh from Ilgasa, Tony Diabet, who is a commissioner in the city of McAllen, and other distinguished folks from our community. So we really appreciate you being here. I'm grateful for this opportunity to bring our select committee. We have 7 times and members from both sides of the bipartisan group that's here to see the challenges that we face every day in the Rio Grande Valley. And we have dedicated folks in the valley that really care about our community, and today is a time to be able to really bring light to our everyday challenges in South Texas and show some of the things that we deal with regularly to the rest of the country and members from other parts of the United States. We definitely have some folks in this country, in this area, that are dedicated to this region. That it's a resilient group of people that have kept us going for 3 decades now, and this massive growth. But we still face challenges in infrastructure, in drainage. We're the largest urban community in the country that's not connected to the interstate highway. We still have a huge digital divide. 2 of the most disconnected communities in the country are right here in the Rio Grande Valley. And I'm hoping that this trip will bring light to these issues to members of this committee. And this is a committee of economic disparity and fairness and growth that was formed by the Speaker of the House. And as we are now dispersing trillions of dollars of infrastructure funding in the country, it's really important to ensure that communities like ours are not left behind, and that the funding that's necessary to bring up the quality of participation are available. So I want to thank everyone for being here, members from both sides and our speakers, and thank our audience for being here. And if y'all have any questions after this, we'll be happy to address them. Commissioner Flores, thank you for hosting us, and I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Flores. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Valley County, and welcome to Precinct 4. This is the Endowment Center in the community of San Carlos. I'm Helen Flores, Commissioner for Precinct 4, and I'm honored to host everyone here today. I would like to first of all acknowledge this historic Rio Grande Valley field hearing of the U.S. House Select Committee on Economic Disparity and Fairness in Growth. I look forward to that event later today. I would like to recognize and thank Congressman Vicente Gonzalez in representing our region in a remarkable way. I would also like to commend Chairman Jim Hines, Ranking Member Brian Steele, and their staff for scheduling this critical field hearing in the Rio Grande Valley. Today, we are privileged to have with us several members of Congress for a one-on-one roundtable discussion with residents of Valley County. Today is historic because this is the first time the House Select Committee on Economic Disparity and Fairness and Growth is visiting the Rio Grande Valley and engaging in several activities. Our nation's leaders will hear directly from local leaders, community members, and experts about the challenges East South Texas faces in building and accessing the modern-day infrastructure necessary to grow the local economy and benefit the full community. Our hope is that today, this committee will lead with first-hand insight as to the consequences of outdated infrastructure on the working-class communities and its impact on economic mobility. So before we begin, I would like to welcome Congressman Gonzalez to formally introduce his colleagues and share brief remarks.
I think we should maybe have everyone introduce themselves. Congressman, do you want to begin? I'll let everybody introduce themselves and where you come from.
Well, good morning. It's good to be with everybody. Congressman Byron Donalds from Florida.
Good morning. It's great to be here with you all. I'm Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. I represent San Diego, California, so the other part of a very similar community.
Good morning. I'm Jim Hines from the state of Connecticut. I have the privilege of carrying
this committee, and I really want to extend my thanks to all of you. Under my chairmanship, I've decided that we're going to spend as much time outside of Washington DC as possible, because of course, inside Washington DC, you can't understand problems unless they're out there, really understand. And so we've been all over the country for field hearings, and I'm just enormously grateful to the commissioner and to all of you for opening the community so that we can really make some progress and understanding how we can help on issues of economic growth and prosperity in communities like this.
Good morning, I'm Congresswoman Stephanie Weiss. I represent the 5th Congressional District, which is the Oklahoma City metro area, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you this morning.
Okay, well, thank you, Congressman, and thank you everyone for your introductions. But before we begin, I would like to recognize my colleagues in the county, Richard Cortez. Richard Cortez here. Okay. And also our honorable Commissioner for Precinct 1, David Fuentes. Good morning. Additionally, we have other elected officials that have joined us today, and in the interest of time, please stand and be recognized. All other elected officials, please stand and be recognized. I would like to advise everyone that we are limited on time, and we want to ensure that our speakers and our committee members have time to engage in dialogue. We have 4 residents speaking today that reside in Precinct 1 and in Precinct 4. We will forego formal introductions as the committee receives their profiles ahead of this event. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and the minutes will be timed. I ask that the committee members take notes and jot down questions for follow-up during the dialogue portion immediately following the 4 presenters. We ask that everyone silence their cell phones, like I just did, as we begin. I would like to note that a translator is available as well if anyone needs translation. So let's begin. Our first speaker is Ms. Sandra Flores, a resident of Precinct 4. Ms. Flores, you may begin.
Buenos días a todos, en especial manera a los congresistas aquí presentes. Cito una escritura que dice, porque no hay autoridad sino de parte de Dios, y las que hay por Dios han sido establecidas. Por esto pagamos los impuestos, porque son servidores de Dios que atienden continuamente a esto mismo. Mi historia es como la de muchos en nuestra comunidad y que hoy tengo la bendición de darles una voz. Todo inició como un sueño que poco a poco hemos ido construyendo en realidad con la ayuda de Dios y con mucho esfuerzo, trabajo y también con el apoyo e indispensable labor de nuestras autoridades que nos representan. Reconozco que no ha sido fácil. Siendo madre soltera, trabajé incansablemente para adquirir educación y terminar una licenciatura y a su vez ser el sustento económico de mi hija, la cual me llena de orgullo que hoy es graduada de la Universidad del Texas Río Grande Valley. Anteriormente y por varios años estuvimos rentando apartamentos. El último en que vivimos estaba en una zona inundable, donde las familias lo perdieron todo. Por eso la importancia de tomar acción para mejorar los acueductos en nuestro condado y así evitar pérdidas. Hoy día, gracias a Dios, tenemos una casa propia. Quizá es pequeña, pero es nuestro hogar, que con tanto esfuerzo hemos construido, sacrificio, y por nada nos gustaría perder nuestro patrimonio. Hoy vivimos en una zona en constante crecimiento, por lo que también aumentan las necesidades de infraestructura y comercio. Recientemente nos vimos beneficiados con la creación de la calle Álamo Norte, pero de igual forma es necesario contar con más accesos viales, mejorar y dar mantenimiento a las calles que ya existen, así como a los canales de aguas pluviales. Pero creo que no se trata solamente de canales de agua, de construcciones, de calles, sino se trata de lo que eso representa para nosotros como familia. Se trata de trabajo, de patrimonio, de hogares, de personas trabajadoras. Se trata de una mejor calidad de vida para nuestra comunidad. Finalmente quiero agradecer primero a Dios por la oportunidad y la vida que nos da, a usted, congresista Vicente González, por su gran trabajo y gestión como funcionario público, así como a todas las autoridades que nos representan. De igual forma, a nuestra comisionada Edith Torres, por sus atenciones y gran trabajo que hasta hoy día ha hecho con nosotros
por la comunidad que nos brinda también por esta oportunidad junto con tu equipo de trabajo. Muchas gracias.
Good morning to all, especially to the representatives here with us. I will quote a scripture. Because there is no authority if not from God, and those that exist have been established by God. For this we pay taxes. They are servants of God who continually attend to this very thing. My story is like of many in our community, and today I am blessed to give them a voice. It all started with a dream, which little by little we have been turning into reality, with the help of God and with a lot of effort, work, and also with the support and indispensable work of our authorities who represent us. I recognize that it has not been easy being a single mother. I worked tirelessly to acquire an education and finish my law degree, and at the same time, be the economic support for my daughter, who I am extremely proud to say that today she is a University of Texas Rio Grande Valley graduate. Previously, and for several years, we were renting an apartment. The last one we lived in was in a flood zone, where families lost everything. Hence, the importance of taking action to improve the aqueduct in our county, and thus avoid losses. Today, thanks to our own house. Perhaps it is small, but it is our home that we have built with so much effort and sacrifice, and we would not like to lose our heritage. Today, we live in a constantly growing area, which is why the need for infrastructure and commerce are also increasing. We recently benefited from the expansion of North Alamo Street, but in the same way, it is necessary to have more access roads, improve and maintain the streets, and also that already exist, and as well as the rainwater canal. But it is not about the streets, water canals, or buildings. It is about what it means for families. It's about work, heritage, homes, working people. It's about a better quality of life for our community. Finally, and first of all, I would like to thank God for the life He gives us, Congressman Vicente Gonzalez for his great work and management as public official, as well as the authority here with us, as well to our Commissioner Eli Torres for her attention and great work, for the opportunity she gives us along with her team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Flores. Gracias. Next, we have Mr. Angel Morales, a resident of Precinct 4. Mr. Morales, you may begin.
Hi guys, my name is Angel Morales. I'm a resident of Precinct 4. I would like to thank you guys today for giving me the chance to speak. A big concern I have is going to be on the rural roads, the roads that are not paved, also Galicia Road. I just listed a few reasons why it would be nice to have these roads paved. I've seen a few people lose control on these roads, Galicia roads actually. My road comes out on the street again, 3 times. Health problems. My wife's always taking my babies to the doctor for sinus issues. Another reason was we see school buses pass. My son will be going to school next year, and if he goes in the bus, we want him to be safe there. We see a lot of emergency vehicles pass by. I've seen the fire trucks. I've seen ambulances go by, and well, they really can't respond as fast as they should. Flooding. We have flooding issues on the road. Whenever it rains, well, lots of times we get stuck in the house. So, I ask you guys to really consider what I'm saying and please help us out. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. Now, I'm happy to say that these Precinct 4 residents are huge advocates for the community, and we appreciate your time today. Next, we have from our neighboring Precinct 1 community, we have Mr. Noé Villarreal from Parkville. Mr. Villarreal, please begin.
Good morning. I would like to recognize the Honorable House Committee on Economic Prosperity and Growth. Thank you for the opportunity to address you about the needs in the Hartville community. I am here representing Hartville. Hartville is a small community in the northernmost part of Hidalgo County. It was established in 1924, so it's not a colonia that just popped up a few years ago. We've been around quite a while, actually. It had numerous businesses in a very productive citrus, cotton, and vegetable economy. However, things have changed since. The railroad track has been removed. The agricultural community moved on to more modern machinery. laborers moving to neighboring cities for employment. And as a small community, Hartville faces a lot of challenges that municipalities and incorporated towns do not have. The emergency service response time delayed due to distance and traffic on the highways. Our remote location and distance from the services and resources is a key factor for the gap in public services. Roads and bridges have not been improved for over 30 years in some areas and have since deteriorated. Our drainage ditches are all but gone. Growth has been at a standstill for decades. There's ample room for infrastructure improvement. Public lighting is an indispensable part of every city's infrastructure. Streets are very dark at night. Crime, human trafficking, drug trafficking are common occurrences. As everyday Americans, we want safe and illuminated streets. We would like stable, consistent, and affordable broadband services, which we do not have. We have broadband, but it's not affordable to everybody. The pandemic caused a lapse in our children's learning process. Working from home was a challenge due to unreliable, weak, and broadband connectivity. Before I close, let me just say that our community is in need of enhanced roadways and streets, improved drainage infrastructure, and expanded broadband access and connectivity. Thank you for your time. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Villarreal, for those comments. Finally, we welcome Ms. Connie Villanueva from Precinct 1. Ms. Villanueva, please begin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank all the community members, all the congressmen, congresswomen, already the women. But thank you for giving us the opportunity. And I'm very glad to say that this is one of the first times I've seen so many congressmen, elected officials, community members come together to try to help the rural areas of communities with some of our problems. I come from Monte Alto, a rural community, not incorporated, not a city, so we fall under our Commissioner David Fuentes. And I'm glad to say that our community has a great working relationship with him, and that whatever funds he can allocate to our area, he does, because he knows our needs. I served on the school board for 20 years, and we had very many problems during the pandemic. We had children working virtual, and even though they have broadband, we bought them hotspots, and it was very difficult for them to learn. And yes, it created a gap in learning, because when they were at home, even though you had a hotspot, that thing was just clocking like the old days when it was dial-up. So that is one thing that we need in our area to help and improve with our students' learning. Even in the school district, even though we have the best we can, it still doesn't compare to those who have better towers, who have more access. So I'm here to ask for all the Valley, all of South Texas, that if you could give us an equal opportunity as many other cities or states may have, it's greatly appreciated. My community is still a community where we can go to certain colonias and you will still find floors that are made of dirt. And I know some of you don't believe that, but homes have been built just on the dirt, and they will throw a rug on there. And how do I know? Because we're in the front line, and we actually created a nonprofit organization, Monte Alto Recreation Center, to assist and help our commissioner also, because we don't believe in becoming dependent on anything. We try to rise up, become independent, get the help we can, and move forward. We still have gravel roads, as Mr. Morales stated. Our buses take a beating, and sometimes when it rains, we have a lot of flood areas there where colonias were built. Children do not come to school for days, for weeks, depending if the water drains or dries up. So there's a great need here in the Rio Grande Valley. It's very different where in other cities the complaint may be potholes. We wish we had that problem. We would like to have at least every road paved where our buses travel through to bring in our children. And I didn't prepare a speech, but I just had some notes for y'all to know. Our area has 98% that live below the poverty level, 98% that get free lunches, and we have limited employers within our geographical area where we live. So I do. I pray to God that y'all hear our voices, that y'all represent us, and that you put up a good fight for us to get as much funding as we can. Because I do have to thank my commissioner, David Fuentes, because with the resources he has, and the way you all already know it in Congress, you gotta spread that money as far as it can go. And it's been done for our area and our precinct. So I pray, I trust God that He will give you all the favor and the ability to bring more funding to the Rio Grande Valley, and to know that it's not even for luxuries, it's for necessities, the basics that we don't have there, a paved street for the kids to get to school. Many of my residents here that from my community, raise your hand. They come from colonias where their home floods every time it rains. And as much as they take in trucks and pumps, it's just in an area where it takes a lot of funding to fix it permanently. And maybe some areas can't be fixed permanently. And another time we had, am I up? Okay, I'm gonna take your minutes, sir, that you didn't use. So anyway, I'd like to thank everybody. I just love the opportunity, and I ask you to give our area the opportunity to have what other areas have. Thank you, may God bless you all.
Thank you. Let's give our presenters a round of applause, please. Thank you so much, and thank you for your efforts, and thank you for being here. Chairman Hines, I now turn it over to you for follow-up questions that the committee may have.
Maybe I'll start the question, but then we'll leave ample time for the other members to follow up, and Cynthia, we'll go to you next as the host. So my question is, I heard your presentations. First of all, thank you very much. You know, the federal government typically on infrastructure is the major partner in terms of bringing in the funds. There is usually, however, state matches, and so my question is, how is that process working out? Is it smooth with respect to your communities working with the state of Texas and the federal government, or is there friction there? Is there bureaucracy that we should be aware of?
Okay, I can speak only on our working together at the level where I'm at, which is working with our commissioner's office and everything. But yes, I don't see the friction. I don't know if my commissioner does, because he's more involved. I don't know where he is, but he's more involved in the day-to-day. But as far as our communities, to our local leader, that's not the chain of command, but who's above us that can represent us, he does do his best to represent us with other agencies, other states, and with the state, and does the best that he can with what he has.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and he'll be on our panel this afternoon, later today, so we'll have an opportunity. Ms. Villanueva, thank you for taking this time to be here. We're grateful to hear from you and some of the folks here. Someone with extensive experience in emergency response in the insurance industry, as a longtime resident of the Rio Grande Valley, board member of the Alto Independent School District, and a leader in this community in emergency response efforts, you know better than most that those closest to the issues that our community faces are best equipped to offer effective solutions. In your experience, what are some resources from the federal government you've seen utilized, and what needs have gone unserved by federal resources, and how can we further empower local leaders to address the needs of your community?
Some of the resources that I have seen are, well, during the pandemic, there were funds allocated to help. That was one of the first things that I did see, is that they allocated funds to our communities to make sure we got as much as we could to get our students connected to broadband, to internet. Unfortunately, it's greater than that. Even though you allocate some funds, there's still more, maybe more towers, more of everything. We saw a lot of resources put into flooding. You know, Precinct 1 tanks were there every day pumping. I know I was there, and we worked the front lines. So I guess the money can only go so far, but as much as is allocated and is budgeted, it's being used appropriately, accordingly. There's just not enough. And even if we go and pave the most used streets, we still have those that live in what we call the back roads, that they're long stretches. I get it. I sat with Commissioner and found out that one street for 1 mile being paved is so much millions, and it's incredible. We don't think that. We think it's as simple as, hey, Commissioner, pave our street. But we know that you prioritize. So we've seen the resources that have come, but unfortunately, much more is needed just to put us at the level of some other cities or other states.
Just basic necessities.
Exactly.
Thank you. Mr. Villarreal, another quick question. In your work to organize community meetings and connect folks to resources before, during, and after a disaster, what needs do you see that often reoccur? And have you noticed a pattern of how South Texans prepare for and recover from disaster? Have you noticed any long-term or short-term impacts from flooding or lack of broadband or transportation infrastructure that you can talk to me about?
Yes, sir. Ms. Villanueva covered most of what I had to say, but it's basically the same. The pandemic, issues with mobility going from the country to the cities for doctors, and, the roads, most of them get flooded. And then when the water recedes, the roads are impassable. There's needs to go to town for groceries, doctors, and other businesses that come up for repairs at the houses. A lot of caliche roads and whatever's been paved has been flooded and worn out with the rain and the water. So there is funds available, and then there's the help is out there, no doubt. The commissioners do a great job providing assistance to our communities. But it takes more than just the local governments. We need help from the upper level.
Thank you, and I know that there's been some complications with FEMA and getting resources down to communities like ours. And before I pass it to the other members, I want to just make light of, we just came out, we're coming out of this pandemic, still coming out of it, but our community was devastated by this pandemic. I lost almost 4,000 constituents. At one point, we had 3 freezer trucks full of bodies that couldn't get buried for almost a month. Our hospitals were bursting at the seams. People were dying outside in ambulances. The impact was devastating, and I think it had an impact on everything else. With that, I'll pass it to other members, and I'll let you ask.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess we've heard a little bit from Congressman Gonzalez about the growth in the area. Can you give us a percentage of growth maybe over the last 5 years or so in the Rio Grande Valley?
I don't have the exact number. I don't know. Tony, would you know that? The answer to that?
The percentage of growth within this region.
I'm sorry, I represent Edinburgh. I'm the mayor here in the city of Edinburgh. I think in our community in the last 10 years, grown by over 30%. So the growth rate is substantial, and it continues.
Yeah, that was over the last 10 years, right, sir? About 3 to 5%.
Thank you.
Yes, our community in Gallo County is right at the need now.
Right.
We're really focused on it. There's tremendous growth. Every year it's been between 4 and 5%, and you start accumulating it every year, so it's like tremendous growth. So the cities of McAllen, Edinburgh, Mission, and Flor is the nucleus of around, close to 600,000 of those inhabitants. But the rural areas are growing tremendously. So the transportation of getting in and out of those communities is very, very important. So the in and out of their cities, maybe Edinburgh is right around 90,000 to 100,000, but with the university there, with the county seat there, and all of the administrative offices, state and federal, you can have 30 to 40,000 coming into your city and leaving on a regular basis. That's in McAllen. We have over 40,000 coming in. So we are at 150, we've got 180 to 190,000 people coming in and out of our city. So yes, infrastructure is extremely important. The representatives that talk here in our community, I just want to say thank you to you, the representatives, very, very well. We love our area, just like you all. I love San Diego, California. That's a nice place, but we love our area here, okay? And our growth is because people want to stay and come back.
So if I may, I want to just follow up on this point, though. I think you're having tremendous growth, but Connie mentioned in her speech that, you have communities where you're sort of building up a house that doesn't have a concrete foundation, right? Are these properties being counted from an ad valorem perspective? Because I think we talked earlier that funding for these communities, and my home state of Oklahoma is the same, it's a local county issue as well as state and federal matches. So my question really is that what kind of loss of revenue are you seeing from these communities that are maybe popping up in the area that really don't have any sort of ad valorem taxes being levied? That's a loss to the community for you all to be able to increase your infrastructure.
They actually go through license. They actually get a permit to build. Some of the colonias are less regulated, but for the most, the vast majority of the Rio Grande Valley is counted, and there's permits granted, and they are being taxed. It's just that depending what area you're in, the growth is between 3% and 5% a year. So it's pretty dramatic. It's just a shortage of revenues, even at that point.
Who determines the tax rates?
The county.
Okay, and do you have a cap on ad valorem millage in your communities?
No. Yes.
And lately, there have been some funds that the county has helped us with. There have been a lot of flooding. We get flooding 3 days after the storms. That's when we get the flooding. Okay, recently on 83rd Street, there's no sidewalks. You just get flooded with water. And the children at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 6:30 in the morning, they're on top of the street waiting for the school bus. There's no lighting, no lights. We're working on the street lights. Recently, they're getting ready, precinct 4 is getting ready. There are families that don't even have a means of communication. Some are lucky to have 3 or 4 cars in a household. There are people here in some countries that don't even have a car. So with funds, we got a bus stop. They take them to the university, they take them to work, they take them to the doctor. We need the flooding, precinct 4 has done a good job. They're getting ready with the ditches and everything, but we had a lot of trouble because the state highway said it belonged to the county. Then the county knew that it would belong to the state highway. So we were having trouble. So recently, as you can see, San Carlos under construction a lot. And thanks to precinct 4, they have done a lot to us. We're working now, especially on the lights. Children, like I tell you, at 6 o'clock, real dark, they're waiting for the school bus on top of the street. So, and thank you, Congressman, and thank you all for coming for this small community of San Carlos. It's unincorporated, we're still with Edinburgh, and we need some help. Traffic lights, substation, police substation, a fire. There have been about 3 families that got burned. I can tell you, they are, the whole family perished in the fire. 3 families, they perished in the fire because of the fire. We need help. Fire department, police department, and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you all for sharing your community with us and for sharing your stories. I think, one of the things our committee is looking at is how these services that you all aren't getting are contributing to multi-generational poverty, where your kids are already starting out potentially having a harder time because you're not getting these things from the government and from your leaders. And I was struck when you said that your colonia was built in 1924. It seems that this is not a new problem, and that there's been sort of a history of not being able to get what you need here. So, Angel, Sandra, I know you both talked about a little bit about your kids, but I was wondering if you all could share a little bit about your own family histories in these communities and what you're worried about in terms of what your kids aren't getting, to hopefully be able to set them up for a better future.
Yes, when it comes to like the health. Well, my wife's having to take the kids to the doctor at least once a week for sinus issues, infections, and I don't know if it's because of the caliche, but I'm pretty sure it's still not good. Every car that passes throwing caliche your way, so we miss a lot of work, getting in trouble at work for not being able to go, my wife having to miss work, no pay, a lot of different issues. My son will start going to school next year, so if he's gonna go on the bus one day, I can't take him or something. We want it to be a safe trip for him, right? And with the caliche flying, the roads are bad, it floods, and like I said, lots of those videos there are from the road I live in, right? So, and we're just hoping for the best. I do my part by calling in to complain and ask, give them updates on what's going on. The road is flooded, the road is bumpy, there's a hole. I mean, I don't know much about anything else, but that's how I do my part, by keeping them updated on what's going on in my road. Thank you.
Yo pienso que es importante inyectar mayor economía a esta zona porque sería como en cadena. Al haber mayor economía, mejor el salario más competitivo implicaría más recaudación de impuestos, como decía la congresista. Eso sería un beneficio para nosotros. Mejores oportunidades de empleo, salarios más competitivos. Mi hija, hablo por mi historia, mi familia, mi hija que es graduada de la universidad, es difícil a veces encontrar un empleo con un salario competitivo y necesitamos mayor economía. Yo pienso que necesitamos más comercio, inyectar economía en esta zona, apoyar las pequeñas y microempresas para poder obtener más ingresos como gobierno y de esa forma regresarlo a la comunidad. Escuchamos todas las necesidades y peticiones respecto a la infraestructura, a las calles, a las inundaciones y todo lo que necesitamos, pero yo creo que ocupamos una solución, una respuesta, y eso todo repercute en una economía local. Necesitamos impulsar nuestra economía, salarios más competitivos, para de esa forma también darle una herramienta a las autoridades, a los gobiernos, que ellos tengan mayor flujo económico para así regresarnos a nosotros también todas las ayudas y oportunidades que necesitamos como comunidad. Gracias.
I would say that it is very important that we have more economy here in our zone or in our area. It is important that we have competitive salaries, which will mean more tax recollection as for the government. Better job opportunities, better salaries, and I know that my daughter is just graduated from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, and she's having a hard time getting a good paying job. So we need a better economy, support small businesses, which this will mean more income for you as a government, which means taxes. And we have listened to the needs in infrastructure, streets, flooding, but what we need is an answer, and that will lie in the local government. We need to boost our local economy and more competitive salaries. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Because time is of the essence.
We have one comment. Let's just ask.
Okay.
I'll be brief. It won't probably take much time, but obviously, hearing about local economy, street lights, road construction, obviously the drainage issues that do exist. What's the actual project cost? If you were going to repair half of the drainage issues, how much money are we talking about?
Well, I could tell you the main drainage issue that we looked at cost $440 million that would resolve all the drainage problems, even in the event of a major hurricane. That was the price tag prior to the major increases that we've had with inflation. So we might be looking at around $600 million, which is really a drop in the bucket in the event of a major category 3 or 4 coming through South Texas. It's not, if it comes, it's when it comes. And it's something that we try to communicate to the Army Corps of Engineers, people in Washington, and for sure this committee, that it's a worthwhile investment. It's something that could save billions of dollars in the future. And other than it's even more important than the interstate connectivity that I talked about, or even lack of broadband in the area. If we get devastated with a major hurricane, South Texas will cost the federal government billions of dollars to recover.
I mean, look, I live in South Florida, so I know about hurricanes. I know exactly what you're talking about. My district is Southwest Coastline, but it also includes inland communities. When I was in the state legislature, I represented all inland communities. So with respect to flooding issues that occur in your inland areas, where you have higher poverty rates, you have a lower economic outcomes, I completely understand exactly what we're talking about. I guess one of the things I'm trying to think through is, I know in my state, we obviously, it's probably the same thing in Texas. You have your local funding match, you have your state dollars that come in, and really, well, in Florida specifically, that's how most of our drainage issues are resolved. It never gets to the federal level. With respect to the Corps, obviously, we're doing Lake Okeechobee restoration, Everglades restoration, which is it's a major project, but all the projects all matter in every community. I guess my question is, what's the response, or what's the funding look like between the local communities right now to at least begin some of this work, or even at a minimum, if you're not dealing with the major drainage artery we saw, whether it's either retention canals or retention ponds that local counties in the state of Texas can actually do while trying to figure out where the funding comes for the larger project. What's the status of that work?
Actually, with any project or any solution, it all depends on funding. And unfortunately, we don't have that really great number of taxpayers that can afford to pay these high taxes. We have a lot of poverty here, so our tax base isn't something that you can compare to other areas of the country. We have an area that is poverty stricken, and so therefore our collection is not comparable to other areas. So we make do with what we have and as best as we can. And so
the matching is a struggle.
That is a struggle. That is correct. Sure. Yes, sir.
Just real quick on the flood infrastructure funding that Texas Water Development Board put out, it was to help creating some of these drainage projects for construction and design. Just the construction portion alone, the local match was 40%. So for us, if we want to build a $1 million project, we have to put in $400,000. And like Commissioner said, we have a lot of tax issues with respect to ad valorem tax that you were mentioning. We're already a poor area. Average home is probably $30,000 to $40,000. When you talk about the impact that they make, you're talking about 3% roughly between all of the taxing entities. So you're talking very small tax dollars and consequences with respect to the infusion of tax. But we're not allowed at the drainage district to be able to go out and issue CO bonds. We have to go out for elections. We had passed the 2018 bond election, which allowed us to leverage a lot of the bond monies to put forth that 40% towards the flood infrastructure funding. But even at that, this is the first of its kind in the state of Texas for them producing monies available for drainage projects. Had we not gone out for bond in 2018, we wouldn't have had the local dollars to be able to match. But consider that just one major project is probably between $4 and $10 million. We were going to have to come up with $1.6 to $4 million in match. And that's just really difficult for us without having to go out for an election. So you have to call the election,
right?
Get the people out to vote, just to try to potentially meet the application deadline to be able to fund a project like that.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying. That does create real challenges. I guess, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would probably say at the end is, there's really two concerns. One, I know that in Congress we just went through the bipartisan infrastructure package. From my perspective, my only issue with how the package was constructed was that it didn't appear to me we were going community by community to say, okay, here are the red level projects throughout the United States, here are the yellow level projects, and here's the stuff that's just cool to do if we can get around to it. By my estimation, when we looked at it in the budget committee, there was no determination of what were the red level projects throughout the United States that were in dire need of being funded.
This is a red level project.
But what I'm saying is though, is that when the Senate did their negotiations with the White House, none of that was a consideration. Several of us asked for what were the spreadsheets that were utilized to basically come up to the funding number, and everybody gave us the deer in the headlights look, like nobody knew. It was a dollar amount that they want that was allocated, and there was a funding formula that was put out. And I think that as a Congress, if we're going to go through infrastructure funding again, which might come up again, something tells me, we have a responsibility to communities all through the United States to actually do the actual hard work of identifying red level projects and making sure those get funded directly, as opposed to just coming up with a number or targeting certain states or targeting certain interests and then doing it that way. Because, you know, you're talking about 400 million here in Southwest Florida, really the Southern Peninsula of Florida, we're talking about $4 to $5 billion in complete Everglades restoration, which impacts rural communities, coastal communities, etc. You know, I'm quite sure, obviously, in California, we have those same issues. All across the mid-Atlantic states, we have flooding issues because infrastructure is not being kept up to date. That's probably more for us.
Yeah,
but that's something that we got to really look at.
Thank you, Congressman. That's great. And a real challenge is actually having the benefit of FEMA funds when they are available. And Commissioner Fuentes, I know that you dealt directly with the state on trying to capture some of the FEMA funds, and it was a real challenge, especially for uninsured public projects. I think eventually you were able to get some resources, but it was really, really tough, and it wasn't enough. But we're one of the communities that, even with the resources there, actually getting it down to the folks who need it most has been a real challenge because of the bureaucracy just within FEMA. I don't know, Commissioner, if you want to talk about that a little bit. I know you dealt with that directly.
Thank you, Congressman. Yes, during the 2018, we applied for the FEMA public assistance. I'm going to say a little bit of that in my oral testimony today. Yeah, they disqualified a lot of things that they qualified in prior events, so we didn't qualify for any public assistance. So everything that we endured, we had to rebuild on our own dollar. And with respect to what you're talking about, with respect to the projects that are, you know, high-level priority, unfortunately, there's a lot of emphasis on shovel-ready projects. Well, if we had the ability to prepare shovel-ready projects, we'd be spending millions of dollars just in design. And that's not reasonable for us. We're trying to.
I would argue that in Washington, they have no idea what shovel-ready projects actually mean.
Right, but that's part of the qualification. That makes it really hard for us to be able to compete against areas like Harris County and Travis County, Dallas County, because we just don't have the economic resources, like Commissioner and Congressman were saying, to have all of these projects just lined up and ready to go when funding becomes available. So we're doing our part to try to create that with as many projects as we can internally with our drainage district. We're having them, you know, spot the areas of most concern, at least give us some sort of an idea of what we need to do. So that's the part of that we're trying to do now locally to be ready when these infrastructure dollars come down from the federal government. And then somebody mentioned, you know, the state and how they do it. A lot of these programs that are managed by state agencies, they already have a set of rules that they've been following for years. And there's not a consideration for economic disparity. You know, there's not, I mean, there are some where they maybe require less to be paid back or a lower interest rate. But with respect to, hey, here's the grant money you need in order to make it happen, that doesn't really exist. We have to go out there and try to advocate. We've even gone to the federal government. We've gone to HUD to beg them to try to reconsider the rules at the federal level because state rules just don't apply well to our area down here.
That's right. And I'll close with this. When we received our CARES Act money, counties that were under 500,000, which in this case we weren't, but most of my rural counties that were under 500,000 in population, the funds were meant to go directly down to the county, and the state was just supposed to be a conduit. Well, the state, our state in Texas, they said, okay, we have the money, you need to spend it first and then bring us the bill and we'll pay you for it. And our counties, especially the smaller rural counties, didn't have the resources to make those expenditures, so most of them weren't able to capture any of that funding.
So again, because time is of the essence, I do want to thank everyone and on behalf of myself and the Valor County leadership for coming out here today. We are We will be moving on to our next stop. We want to thank you once again for being here. We do ask that all our congressional leaders here gather for a photo. We do ask that the committee remain seated, and after the photo, allow our congressman to exit before exiting yourself. Again, thank you for being here. We do have refreshments, and please help yourself.
Thank you.